Morning, it is February 13th. Today we have like a free day and our Ghosts and Spirits tour is at night. So we are going to go do our laundry today and then we're going to go to a market and then the tour. And it's also like 23 degrees today, so it's another nice day. Okay, so we're getting breakfast now at Croissant Joie. I think that's how you say it. And it's adorable in here. Here's our food. We are now on our way to the French market.
Yeah, it's all very
Yeah. We're still at the market and we got some praline beignets. So then, I don't know, do you reckon they're cool enough to try one? Go for it. Move to the left. Still quite hot. I wonder why. That little white I managed to eat was very sweet and delicious. Tastes like ice and water.
As I suspected.
It's Jackie's.
Finally, something sitting on the terrace, and even if my name isn't spelled the
Yeah, I was
same
going to say
way.
your name's not spelled. Oh, some producer.
You can go back to him. We just got back to the hotel after going to markets and some shopping. We went to the fancy shops and went to Anthropologie and the clothes were too expensive, but I did get a book about writing, for writing. And then we're gonna just stay here until we get to our Ghosts and Spirits tour.
It's been a good day, the weather's been really nice.
That's all?
Yeah.
Yes, we gotta tell them that we're going out.
I don't think we do. I think we tell them while we leave.
Well, it's easier to do it here. And the lighting's better than it is out there. Okay, so we are about to leave to go to the Ghosts and Spirits tour, which hopefully should be good and not too cold outside.
It's not going to be cold outside. I can already feel it.
There might be cold breeze.
Actually, no, it's probably not bringing my beanie. That's not going to be cold, I guarantee you.
Anything to add, Jackie?
Fun?
Anything to add?
No, thank you. No, I just no. Okay, yeah. I just need to call that. Okay.
You have to put that in the film. That is jacket, bro.
We're about to go on the Ghost and Spirits tour.
And Harrison looks like a Justin Bieber wannabe with his side fringe hanging out from his jumper.
Excuse me, but Justin Bieber would want to be this, not the other way around, honey.
Second man that owns this property, his name was Dr. Dupas. Dr. Dupas elevates this study to the next level. He starts experimenting on people. He starts walking up and down these streets, seeing if there's anyone around, just chatting with people for a while. They say, oh, let me tell you, I'm just feel hungover, my head hurts, my stomach hurts, and he goes, well, I am a pharmacist, I can cure that for you. So they bring him, he brings them back here to his pharmacy, feeds them a sedative, at which point they pass out. They wake up there in the second story in chains with a gag over their mouth, at which point he does one of 3 medical experiments. And experiment number 1 is he'd cut off a large circle of flesh around your abdomen. He would insert a piece of glass in there to watch your internal organs functioning while he tries to keep you alive. Usually you would die. Number 2, he would find pregnant women, inject them with all sorts of things, sometimes even acid. Seeing how long they would stay alive, of course they would die too. Number 3, he'd find men, strip off the flesh on their head all the way down to the bone, leaving bits of flesh in a strange sort of bizarre pattern. Seeing how long they would stay alive, and they totally made it. No, just kidding, they all died. Now afterwards, he would release a trapdoor that he had installed. They'd fall down into a wagon he had waiting below, cover up the bodies with burlap, and bring them out to the nearby swamp and dump the bodies. Along the side, down the alleyway, I got a light, you can actually see the trapdoor that I was talking about. So, right up here, right on the ceiling, right past this first fan is that boxy thing. You see that? Y'all see that? That boxy thing on the ceiling right past the fan? A lot of times, the women that would be in these insane asylums were not women who were insane. They were just women who didn't quite fit into the mold of society. If you were a little bit too promiscuous, then you were sent on down to the insane asylum. Now, this is where the story of 2 of these women come into play. There are 2 women named Marie Therese and Marie Anne. They come over. Now, they were not crazy. They just, you know, like hanging out with dudes a lot, and they like going around just beating people. It doesn't quite fit. You know, it doesn't quite fit into the cultural accepted norms of the early 1700s, so they send them over. They sent over here, and they're immediately overwhelmed. They're 2 sisters, they need to find some work. So they're going around, they find, of course this was a different structure at that time, right? It was before the fires of 1788 and 94. There was a property that was right here, right up there, and then this would have been still their courtyard, would have looked very different though. So they start working for 3 sisters, all named Michelle. I don't know how that works. But 3 sisters, all named Michelle, who were all spinstresses. They were constantly working on sewing different patterns and had this little small company. Now they go and work for them for a few years. When it gets really strange, when Michelle Therese shows up at the police department after several years of working and says that her sister has disappeared. She starts talking to them frantically, says that in the back they have a room closed off that she has never seen, but she knows they're doing some sort of weird seances, some sort of strange, sort of bizarre practices back there. So they go to investigate. They think this woman's crazy because she came from the insane asylum, right? Clearly she must be insane. They go back and investigate. They can't find any evidence of any room that even seems like this. So they label her as crazy, they ship her off. They ship her off to what's called Fort Roseland, which was just upstream. Now, of course, she ends up dying in what's called the Natchez Massacre. Now, later on, fire of 1788 tears through this whole area. All of the Michelle sisters have long since moved away, everything had calmed down, burns down the property that was here. When they start rebuilding, then they start clearing the land for this brand new foundation, and when they dig back here, they find the remains of several animal bones and a small girl who had a smash mark right in through the back of her head. Now, it is said that they did not move the body, they just bricked right on over it, and that by that where that tree basically is right now, sorry dude, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have chosen the spot. That is where her remains sit even today. It is said that you can get strange photos around this area. When this little break, you can take some photos, see what you get, orb circles, all of that. And then it is also said if you're in that area, sometimes you'll get a shiver or a chill or feel some sort of weird dizzy spell. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling hot.
Now you feel a little cold now. Close, right? Those spikes are called Romeo spikes. And Romeo spikes are so named because in the early days of New Orleans history, you have a lot of very concerned fathers. They're very worried that amorous young boys are going to climb these up and try and woo their daughters. So they start installing spikes at the top of all of these. Now many boys will attempt to climb up anyway, sometimes slipping, getting disemboweled, or even worse, where they get their name from, Romeo spikes, where it said you may climb up a Romeo, but you'll come down to Juliet. Any of y'all see Interview with the Vampire?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. Interview with the Vampire. They filmed a few scenes outside there. Any of y'all see 12 Years a Slave?
Yes.
Yeah. Filmed a few scenes outside of there. Now, all of these go here because this is an iconic spot, right? Fire of 1788. Fire of 1788 starts a few blocks over more that way, but all the buildings would have looked like this during that time. Now, this property right there with those crazy lights right there, now this is, of course, the oldest building, or excuse me, this is the largest residential property in New Orleans. It is also the most famous murder house in New Orleans history. And actor Nicolas Cage purchased this property in 2007 for $3.45 million. He buys this property, he does not still own it. He buys this property and the story is he doesn't know any of the history around it when he buys it. So he starts moving in all of his stuff. He looks around, he sees some tour groups around. He calls up a tour guide operator. He says, I can't believe you're giving tours of my house. I cannot believe this. And they say, no, Mr. Cage, you moved into the most famous murder house in New Orleans history. And he says, really, what happened? And the tour guide operator says, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to take the tour. That's a true story, because the best part about all of this is they convinced him to go on a tour. Private tour.
Great line.
Yeah, it was not actually, it was a different company. They convinced him to go on a tour, and this is a private tour, Mr. Cage and the tour guide, and there is actually photo documented evidence of him going on this tour. And they're walking up and down these streets. They end right in front of Mr. Cage's own house. And the story that the tour guide tells is that Mr. Cage cannot handle the actual story of what happens here. Too horrifying, too intense, too brutal. He ends up ending the tour early, goes inside of his own house, calls up a hotel, never spends another night there. That's how horrifying the story is. Alright, so that's the end of the tour. No, I'm just kidding. Alright, so y'all see American Horror Story Season 3? Yeah. Did some of you watch that show? Yeah. Alright, Season 3 is loosely based off the events that happened in that building. Say the word loosely, because I'm going to be telling you the more historical version of all of this. Now, this is, like I was saying, my longest story, but this is also the most famous story too.
So we just got back from the Ghosts and Spirits tour, which wasn't really much of a Ghosts and Spirits tour, more of like a who killed who here tour. And yeah, some of those questions weren't answered. And we kind of want to sleep with the light on.
No,
and
we don't.
Harry keeps trying to scare Jackie.
It was all good and well, but it was all well and truly gone in the past. The only real scary one was Hotel Jackson. Make sure you stay there next time you're in New Orleans. Real bargain race, they're looking for people.
Because ghosts use your camera and take pictures.
And just don't take a camera and problem solved.
Well, don't take a film camera.
Yeah, well, that too.
I don't think anyone owns one of those except my grandparents.
So tomorrow I'm doing nothing. These two have another plantation tour.
And in the morning we're going shopping, aren't we, Jackie?
Possibly, depending on what time the tour is.
It's 12 o'clock, same time.
You've got barely any time. Yeah. So